And now we have Matt Picton and Marie Lowe from Differentology, and they're going to be talking to us about really interesting research they've done about how people are using audio.
Hi everyone, my name's Matt. I'm here with my colleague Mari. We're here today to present the findings of a study that we did in partnership with Radiocentre Ireland to try and understand the audio landscape, commercial audio landscape in Ireland, and how people are engaging with different media and audio formats, what needs they're meeting with those audio formats, the context of that, where that's happening, and which media formats they're using to meet those needs. In terms of the kind of key findings from this study, which was based on both a qualitative phase, where we did an exploration piece to understand what are the different need states that people are engaging in, and the quantitative diary piece, where we concise those need states and understand those kind of contexts and what people are doing in the different need states, we have found that there are 7 need states that people are engaging with in commercial audio in Ireland. The best way to think of these, or to kind of summarise them, is putting them on 2 axes in terms of how people are engaging with them. That goes from whether the occasion is context-driven or content-driven, and whether the listening occasion is primarily individual and solus in nature, or whether it is social in nature. And these span different kind of needs, from things like lift my mood, amplifying the moment, broaden my horizons, and we'll just dig into each of these in turn as we go through. For the first couple, we've got a video of real consumers talking about each need state, and we'll just show those for the first 2 need states. There are videos for the rest, but in the interest of time, they will sit, I think, on the website, and you can kind of view those at your leisure. The first need state we're going to go into, mainly because it's most dominant, is keep me company, which alludes to some of the things that Sarah was saying about the presenter kind of being there and being a companion to people when they're on their own.
I just decided to listen to the radio because, on my own, it kind of gives some background company almost, because I'm just sitting here going through my emails before doing everything else in the day.
I'm literally just listening to the breakfast show on WLR, a little bit of music, a little bit of chat. I like the 2 presenters on it. I kind of feel like they're probably friends. So it's kind of nice, like I feel like I'm in the room with the presenters.
Just going out for a little drive down to the shop to get milk, and I have on 96 FM to keep me company in the car.
I usually listen to the radio in the morning. That is something that I associate with the commute to work. I love the company, the familiarity.
Working late in the office this evening, I'm listening to a local radio station, CUHFM. It's the local hospital in Cork, and easy listening.
If you throw on music on Spotify, it can kind of keep you company. Radio does it a little bit better, I think, with having, a persona there kind of talking and introducing songs, or even just chat shows and stuff like that. While you can use them both for kind of keeping you company, I think radio is better for that because it's so local and because it's so involved in the community that you're in.
So I think that video does a really good example of showcasing what Keep Me Company need state is all about. It's about having that kind of companionship, that sense of someone else being in the room, just another voice, and that fear, not taking away that fear of kind of being alone and working solus. As you'd expect, it's very much a need state where listening is happening in isolation, and doing kind of things where people are either relaxing, working at home, whether they're doing just daily chores. Personally, if I'm doing a bit of washing up at the sink, I love to have the radio on, keep me company, bop along to it, do those kind of things. And in terms of where it's happening for this need state, it's predominantly at home, because people are doing kind of either working from home or they're doing chores and tasks. But it's also happening in car and at work as well, keeping people company. In terms of kind of the emotional takeaway, or the mood that people are in when they're engaging in this need state, it's very much about being uplifted, happy, positive in that sense. In terms of how big this need state is, what we've been able to do by looking at the total kind of commercial listening, a number of minutes, is chunk that up into how big each need state is. This is the biggest need state of all the 7 that we've identified, making up, almost 40% of the total commercial listening in Ireland. I don't think that's a huge surprise. I was looking at some sort of broader contextual stats around this. I think if we'd have done this study pre-COVID, 5-6 years ago, I think this need state would exist, but it would probably be much smaller in nature. With the advent of COVID, as we all know, and probably a greater increase in hybrid working, working from home, remote working, I think this need state has probably blossomed as a result of that, and people not wanting to feel like they're alone if they are working at home or working remotely or conducting tasks at home. It has the strongest weekly reach of any need state and the longest average listening occasion, which again, because it's an accompaniment and that companionship, it's kind of, to Sarah's point, flicking that station on in the morning, radio in the morning, and kind of letting it run and be that companion and accompanying me throughout the day. In terms of audio format, I don't think it's any surprise that presenter-led kind of live radio is the dominant audio format for this need state, because it is that sense of the human voice and the synchronicity of that is only something that really live radio can deliver. So in this need state, there's not so much being met by on-demand or podcasts, it's dominated by radio fulfilling this need state. Marie's now going to, so you don't just listen to me and be bored by my monotone, dull tones. Marie's going to talk through need states and we're going to tag team the rest of these.
So the next one that we're going to talk about is Help Me Escape. And again, we've got another video that we can just quickly show you.
I can kind of have a bop in the kitchen to myself, a bit of peace. And then usually at 11, I think it is, Suzanne Kane and Brian Dowling start. I love Suzanne Kane, she's a really good presenter, and now she's with Brian Dowling. It's even better, they're really good crack. And again, like that, I can have this bit of time to myself in the kitchen.
Didn't hear one piece of audio all day, so I'm going to stream the top 25 on Apple Music. I'm going to catch up on just my chewing gum for the brain podcasts. So like Spencer and Vogue, and there'll probably be a My Therapist Ghosted Me bonus, and I'll just look at those on Apple Podcasts in the car. It's just like chewing gum for the brain, bubble gum for the brain, kind of easy to listen to.
This is on Today FM in Ireland, so I'll 100% be listening to this. Thank you, Dave Grohl. I actually absolutely love this song. It actually makes me feel really, really, really sad. Just reminds me of a really good time with all my friends at a festival that we saw years ago. And yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. Makes me a little bit sad, but like in a nice way sad.
So, as you just heard, this need state is really about finding that space for yourself. Life at the moment is a bit hard at times. Maybe you've had a really long day at work and you really need to make just a bit of a happy, energized space for yourself. It's really pushing a buffer out between yourself and the world. It is more solitary, as you can see, it's mainly alone. So this is one that you're doing on your own when you just want a bit of a break from the whole world. In terms of actually what people are doing, often working, studying, also just relaxing or hobbies in general. So I think in the video they put it really well, sort of chewing gum for the brain, so something to mull over, but not something that's too intense or too hard or too difficult. It's just giving you your own space in a way that audio can deliver it. In terms of how big this need state is, it's the third biggest. So it's 16% of listening time is spent looking for that escape for yourself. And when we're talking about how many people are looking for this weekly, it's a quarter to a third of people, so that 28% there. So it's quite a sizable proportion of people. And in terms of the medium, we can see that actually across all adults, live radio is really dominating that. It's a really easy way to escape. So I just turn on the radio in the car. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to search something. I don't have to find it. I just turn it on and it's there and it helps me. One of the things that came through is familiar music, familiar presenters. As Sarah said earlier, it really links into that as well. So you're looking for that safe, familiar place for yourself. I think what's super interesting here is your 16 to 34-year-olds. We do see a little bit of a different pattern. So that middle bar there is on-demand music streaming. So that's things like Spotify, Apple Music, there's a whole bunch of them. But it's places where you can maybe go, just click on a playlist, they kind of know your tastes, they kind of know what you like already, and it's a super easy way, again, that you can just access a bit of that escape, a bit of familiarity, maybe like a playlist that, as one of the respondents said, reminds you of a good time. So actually it's accessing that really quickly and easily for people. And we're going to move on and talk about Lift My Mood now. I'm going to hand back over to Matt. No more videos, I'm afraid, but you can always look at them online.
No more videos. My one takeaway from Peter's thing was not be dull. So we'll try and keep this high energy and interesting. The next one, lift my mood. This is all about, as you'd expect, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's about lifting the energy. It's about lifting the moment in the room. It's kind of playing, Eye of the Tiger before you walk out for a big game of soccer or rugby or whatever it might be. It's those kind of moments where people are using audio for lift my mood. And the two kind of contexts that are kind of most dominant within this are kind of the commuting and hobbies. So this is where people are really engaging this. So if you're anything like me in the morning, you need caffeine, and I need a bit of a kind of an audio pick-me-up to get me started in the morning on my drive into work. So I really resonate with this need state and the use of my audio in this space to do that. Again, happening across home, at work, and in car. And the mood around this, you'd expect, is very much feeling uplifted, energized, really kind of punchy first thing in the morning, get me going, especially as the sort of mornings seem to be getting darker and darker and darker. This is a really kind of key need state in that essence. Can you hear me? In terms of size, it is one of the more sizable need states as well, with around about, 20%, so a fifth of all listening, and a pretty good weekly reach and good length of listening time. What is interesting in this space, like radio, yes, still very prevalent, still playing a key role to meet this need state and these occasions. But what's also apparent, both amongst total audience and also kind of our younger kind of cohort, is on-demand music kind of starting to play a role at meeting this need state as well. I think that's, with the easy accessibility and ability to create things like playlists now, with algorithms in Spotify or even Spotify targeting based on mood, it's really easy to kind of compile and curate things to really fit the occasion and really hit the mood that I want to find. If you're anything like me, a bit long in the tooth, it definitely beats kind of creating mixtapes from the top 40 countdown on a Sunday afternoon.
Cool, so you can see now, we're working our way down towards the more social area of that kind of little chart. So we're going to talk about amplify the moment. And this is about bringing people together. So unlike the last one I just talked about, this is really social. It's with friends, partners, spouse, like with people. Essentially, the setting is often dictated by the social situation as well. So as I said, it's that context-driven. Home, work are places you might listen to it, shared car journeys, key moments for this as well. Really, the heart of this is taking those really good times and just making them a bit better. Maybe you're cooking in the kitchen, your friends are over, or maybe it's your family and you're just having a nice time together, and just having that radio on just helps you elevate that a little bit more. Or maybe it's not quite such a positive moment and you're putting on the radio just to lift it a little bit more. In terms of the size of the moment, it's 4%. So it's important for people, but it is a smaller one in terms of the total listening time. When we're thinking about Ireland and the landscape, the audio landscape, it is a bit more talk-centred, I'd say, than other markets. So that probably makes sense, because this is really kind of a music-centric moment. That's what people are getting to amplify their moment. It's usually around music. And we have seen 9% of people, listening to the radio to meet that need weekly. Say radio, audio, but you can see why I'm saying radio on this slide. So that really suits radio. It's really easy access, again, as I mentioned before, but actually also it's quite a low risk of judgment. I don't know about you guys, I have been asked to change a playlist on a car journey, and it hurts quite a lot if someone makes that judgment on your music taste. But when you turn on the radio, you don't have that risk. Maybe you like the song, it comes on, you can pretend you don't like it, it's fine, you haven't chosen it. It doesn't come with that risk associated with making a personal choice. And that's, I think, why we see radio across all ages really, really dominating in that space.
The next need that we're going to talk about is fueling conversations. And this can be described as kind of the content-led sister of Amplify the Moment. So it's a very social occasion and situation. It's about filling kind of the voids or awkward silences, if you like. So in the video for this, someone describes it as, I'm going on a 2-hour car journey with my boss, and we flick the radio on, because I don't really want to talk directly to my boss about personal stuff, but kind of the radio might bring up some things that we can have a conversation about and have a bit of a shared experience around, and kind of fueling that kind of conversation between either colleagues, between friends, between family as well. So yeah, this is happening sort of when people are either working, studying, or eating, drinking, again, predominantly at home, but also present in the car. And the need or the mood around this is very much kind of a feel-good and informed mood. Again, it's one of the smaller need states, so it's around about 5% of listening occasions. But don't be fooled by the size, because it's a very social occasion. I think with this need state, you get a lot of kind of secondary reach, because there's going to be more than one person in that car, or there's more than one person in this occasion. So although kind of direct reach is only 5%, there's probably a bit of a broader peripheral capture in terms of reach, but relatively short reach and a relatively kind of average length of occasion. And again, kind of radio playing a really dominant role, or more dominant role in this need state, but there is also space in here for podcasts starting to play a role in terms of being more content, or slightly more content-driven need state, so they start to play a role in this as well as on demand.
And then hopping round, right to that one where the arrow is pointing at, which is right next to content, broaden my horizons. So this one is really about introducing listeners to new topics of interest, maybe new perspectives, different music. It's a lot about that serendipity of just finding something new that maybe you might not have chosen to listen to, but now that you're listening to it, it's actually quite interesting. Or maybe you're hearing an artist on the radio that you didn't realize you liked, but you've just realized you do actually like them because you've heard enough of their music and you're really appreciating it. It is mainly me time, maybe with a partner or children. It's often when you're not doing a whole lot else, relaxing, cooking, eating, drinking, maybe a bit of childcare as well. And in terms of that mood, it's really about being positive, happy, interested, wanting to be informed. You're looking for that kind of little bit of a stretch of the brain, maybe. In terms of how big it is, again, it's quite a small one. It's 4%. Weekly reach is 12%. But I think what's really interesting is on the next slide, where we see the dominance of podcasts, particularly for that 16 to 34-year-olds. And even actually amongst that all adults group, that's a third of that need state is being delivered by podcasts. I think that probably makes a lot of sense. It really leans into podcast strengths, which is, you know, wide variety of content, a lot of depth of content sometimes. As a bit of research for this, I was digging into the weirdest ones I could find and the most specific. I think my favorite was, it's about escalators and their impact on everyday life. And it's called People Movers. So if anyone's super interested, it's out there. But we can see why podcasts might be a natural fit for this. I think actually what's maybe a bit more surprising is how much radio plays a role as well. But that element of just serendipity, finding something, it just popping on the radio, it just comes on. And actually it's a topic that you find really interesting. As Sarah said, it roots you to the floor and unexpectedly. You didn't expect it to hit you, but it just does and it grabs your attention. So moving on to the last one, over to Matt, keep me in the loop.
The last, but by no means least, and this is kind of a middle-sized need state, and keep me in the loop is kind of as described really. It's about keeping informed, whether that's the broader kind of world around us, whether that's my locality, my local kind of community, or at a national level. I'm just sort of staying connected and being kept informed. It's a very private kind of soulless type of occasion, or very rarely with, you know, close family or kind of immediate relatives. It's not something that's a big social event or social kind of need that audio is meeting here. It's kind of in those private moments, both in the home or in the car, potentially, in terms of wanting to kind of be connected. In terms of the kind of mood here, as you'd expect, it's kind of more around kind of being interested and informed and maybe a bit more kind of engaged as an occasion because it is more kind of soulless listening in essence. In terms of size, it's kind of middling in size, so neither biggest nor smallest, but has, again, good strong reach and a relatively kind of shorter listening length. In terms of the dominant medium, again, kind of radio plays a really strong role in meeting this need state. I guess with many talk-based, kind of presenter-led stations, tackling kind of latest current affairs, topics, whether that's at a national scale, global scale, local scale, it's not a surprise that kind of the trusted source of radio is leading the way in this kind of space. In tandem with that, so radio doesn't work in isolation to meet this need state, there is also a role, particularly among the younger audience, for podcasts starting to play a role in this kind of more informative, content-driven need state. So just to kind of wrap up in terms of looking at them all in one pie chart, it gives you a sense of the different sort of size and scale of all these need states. And if you broadly split this by which proportion of listening that is driven by context-led listening, that's around about 75% or 3/4 of listening. And sort of 25% of listening is more content-driven. So the three need states that are fueling conversations, broadening horizons, keep me in the loop, which are much more content-driven. Mari's now just going to go on to talk about some of the key characteristics of those different audio formats, which have kind of become apparent as we've gone through the need states, but just to drill into those a little bit more. So you've just got 4 more slides to sit through.
Cool. So the first one we're going to talk about is our on-demand music services. So if I had to summarize what the key top moments for this are, it's about mood management. It's about, I'm not feeling the best and I just want to feel better. Or maybe I'm feeling great and I just want to make it even better, this shared experience with friends. It's about lifting mood, social soundtrack, but also finding that escape from the world. So in summary, that's what on-demand music services are delivering for people. And I think it's particularly interesting considering, services like Spotify are moving even more into that. They're leaning into that mood focus as well. So it really suits them quite well. Talking about podcasts, this is really about discovery, which again makes a lot of sense. It's about learning something new, broadening your horizons, fueling conversations potentially as well. So podcasts really, again, that really suits what they are naturally like. They're broad, they're varied, a lot of them are highly individual. You've got lots of choice. We've then got radio. So you can already see those bars for radio are even higher across the board. So it could be a little bit harder to pick out what's special. But I think what's really key is that element of connection, that element of company, that element of feeling like you're in the loop with other people. I think thinking about the world since COVID, that probably has become a lot more important to people to really feel that human connection. It's just key. In terms of when we have a look at this amongst other markets, we do see podcasts do dominate a little more in terms of that broaden my horizons. But we can see from here that in Ireland, actually, they're even more dominant here. And actually on the next slide, it's even more apparent. So yeah, that broaden my horizons, it's small, but we can see the role that radio plays in it. For context, there's a few numbers on this slide. This is weekly reach by media formats. This is a number of, or the percentage of commercial audio listeners that you're reaching in each of these moments by each of these formats. So you can see radio is still a really key element to keep in touch with people. So, in summary, essentially what I've just said, but I think what we can see here is it's not about picking the best one, necessarily. It's not about making a choice, which is number one. It's about using them in their sort of complementary, their additive roles to really get the most of audio overall. And in summary, I feel like we've waited till the end to tell you some of the whys, why we feel it's really important. So, firstly, there's the role of need states. So, I think, as we would intuitively know, need states radio plays, and audio generally, plays a lot of different roles in people's lives. There's that company element, there's that discovery, there's keeping in the loop. There's all these different needs that it's meeting. Social, individual, informative, also atmospheric. There's lots of different areas it plays a role. When we're talking about advertising more specifically, I think this is where it gets really interesting. Thinking about matching, what's the brand goal? What's the advertising goal? How can we link that to how people might be feeling at the time? When is the best time to reach people when they're feeling that way? And actually making that synergy work between emotions that people might be feeling already and the emotions that we might be trying to drive with the advertising, which I think links really nicely, talking about using radio for emotions and advertising with emotions. And lastly, just again to make the same point, that it's really a complementary ecosystem. It's not about picking the best one. It's really using each of them for their different strengths and making the most of each one. So that is everything we had to say. Now we're going to hand back over to Kieran for probably quite a quick wrap-up. Thanks so much.
Thank you.